lot of doings this week in the professional wrestling world, including Ring of Honor Final Battle up in the Metroplex at the Curtis Colwell Center. I was lucky enough to be there. Interesting event. To help me break it all down, joining me on the hotline from Sportsnet New York and Triller TV, he hosts The Extreme Life with Matt Hardy, as well as the Strictly Business podcast with Eric Bischoff. It's my good friend Jon Alba. John, how are you, man?
What's up, Stu? Good to see you, man. Always great to chat with you.
I appreciate it, man. It's good to chat with you. So Ring of Honor Final Battle Friday night. The attendance, and I was there in Garland. The arena may have been a third full, and I think that's being generous. There was definitely less than 1,000 fans.
Less than 1,000, really?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's under the reported number, so that's interesting.
Yeah. If there was 1,000, it was right at 1,000. Because it was basically, you saw the crowd behind the hard cam, a lot of empty seats, on the edges of there. And then basically I think we were in the corner, and we're in the corner as you're coming around. And then it is nothing the rest of the way around. There was nothing behind the hard camera. That was all tarped off. And most of the seats opposite hard cam, or behind hard cam, were empty. So I wanted to get your on what you saw and what you heard. Give me your thoughts on Final Battle.
I think for me the biggest thing that I took away from Final Battle was the fact that it ran head to head with Rampage in the middle of this TV rights negotiation period where Warner Brothers Discovery is deliberating on what route it wants to take as far as pro wrestling is concerned. Tony Khan ran his two wrestling companies against each other, one on pay-per-view, one on television. And to me, that was a bigger takeaway than anything that actually happened on the show itself. There were definitely some great matches on it. I'd say all around the show delivered some great matches. The Athena Billy Starks match was really, really well done, and Athena's championship run has been very entertaining. The Mark Briscoe match was an emotional one and just full of energy and action and everything you'd want out of that. Top to bottom, you know what you're getting with these shows. Very seldom do they not deliver from a wrestling standpoint. It's just a matter of what is the longevity in the current presentation, as you said, attendance. And then as far as I saw it, running them head to head with each other was a really, really interesting decision.
That was an interesting decision. And I think, if I remember correctly, Tony Khan even referenced it at least a couple times during the post-show media scrum. I mean, I'm not asking you to try to get in Tony Khan's head, but can you think of a good reason to run a Ring of Honor pay-per-view, even though it was just on Honor Club, ran that directly against a 1-hour Rampage on TNT?
I think Tony's trying to prove the viability of Ring of Honor. I think Tony really wants to bundle Ring of Honor with any media rights deal with AEW. And that was the purpose of it. That's truthfully my opinion. Could I be wrong? Sure.
Yeah. Well, and that was the funny thing. So we get in the media scrum, you get all the wrestlers. We had FTR and Mark Briscoe, which, by the way, they were the first ones up, and they went
more than a half hour.
It was right at 40 minutes. I mean, it was good. It were good answers. You could feel the emotion from all three individuals. By the way, I think I've promised to buy FTR barbecue when they come here in a couple months. But but that one, and then of course Ethan Page, and Billy Starks and Athena. When we got to having just Tony, and I did this actually out of prompting from you. I asked him about all the rumors. I just said there's been a lot of rumors regarding what Warner Brothers Discovery is looking at in regards to professional wrestling? Because I know they're also thinking of the NBA. Their rights for the NBA. I just asked for his perspective, if he could give a little insight, and he went off kind of. I mean, it was quite honestly, it was a very lengthy answer, which we're used to from Tony Khan, but there was a lot. It was quite a bit of we're AEW is doing so well, people are going to come after us. Um, we've got a good relationship. Basically, kind of the same story we've heard every time Tony gets asked about this. He mentioned something. He mentioned something. It made you feel like Ring of Honor was at least as of right now not part of the deal. Now that could change. Give me your thoughts on what Tony said, and I guess more interestingly, on what Tony didn't say.
I think the one thing that did stand out that was that the answer where he mentioned the due diligence.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was interesting because that was the first time he's kind of publicly said something like that, that both sides are doing due diligence. So he acknowledged those talks with WWE and Warner Brothers Discovery and what that situation is. Look, he's going to be a salesman with this, right? He's going to try to promote his best interests and getting that to the finish line. I've heard over the past few months there were certain things that they were close to on the finish line, other things they weren't close to. Are they going to try to bundle Ring of Honor in it? Are they not going to? He made it very clear on the media call ahead of it that he views the Ring of Honor library and rights to be valuable. Do other people see that value? Who's to say? It's very up in the air right now as to whether or not Warner Bros. Discovery sees the value in that. So I think when it comes to how he answers it, it's going to be him trying to make his sales pitch. That's how this all is. It's public relations, and that's why you got the answer that you did.
Yeah. I would think that, definitely when it comes to Ring of Honor, the video library is probably a little more valuable than, I guess the current, what they're currently doing. I guess I could see something along the lines of finding a way to put both AEW and Ring of Honor's video library on, I guess Max would be the most likely home. What do you think of the archives for both All Elite Wrestling and Ring of Honor Wrestling showing up on Max as another channel alongside Sesame Street and HBO and CNN?
I mean, again, it's not implausible. It could totally happen, but does Warner Brothers Discovery want to pay for the Ring of Honor library? Do they view that library as valuable as Tony Khan does? That's the question at the end of the day. What is the true value of it? For a wrestling company to have access to those archives, sure, that's valuable for video packages and stuff like that. But truthfully, how many wrestling fans are going back into the archives and watching all this stuff? And when the WWE Network first came out 10 years ago, that was one of the big appeals to it. But I think we can agree that over time that has diminished, and I don't think you're going to see people randomly queuing up a WCW pay-per-view from 1999 as much anymore. So what is the longevity in that library as a property? That's worth a question in and of itself. And I just wonder whether or not Warner Brothers Discovery actually places much value on that.
And I see what you're saying. I kind of agree with you. Look, I'm an old school guy. I'm an old guy. So, like you said, when WWE Network first came about, I loved looking back at the old Mid-South episodes that I watched as a child, or the World Class episodes. But now it's more of there's more interest in the current product. Archives are not as sought after. So we talked about the card, and there were some great matches. Athena retaining over Billy Starks, and apparently that relationship, at least for now, has been mended. So she's back under Athena's umbrella. You had the Keith Lee and Shane Taylor match, which which I was particularly interested in because I've known those guys for a while. I've called matches with both those guys, especially at back in the Pretty Boy Killer days. Do you think? And I'm kind of wondering. I'm trying to remember if Tony was ever asked about could this be something they could look at in the future as far as putting the Ring of Honor pay-per-views on Honor Club rather than on Bleacher Report. Give me your thoughts on that. Would that make it? I know it'd be a cut in revenue, but could they make it up in the long run?
I don't know what their long-term distribution plan is for the content.
Yeah.
I don't think they know what the long-term distribution plan for the content is right now. I feel like Ring of Honor right now is very week to week. And I mean, we don't even have the Ring of Honor champion on the pay-per-view. You don't have the tag championships on the pay-per-view. It's all still very up in the air as to how that presentation is actually going to look. One of my biggest problems with the current Ring of Honor is that many of the stars on Ring of Honor, the featured players on Ring of Honor, are people who are typically losing often on AEW TV. So what's your incentive to pay for the content to see the people that lose all the time on AEW be stars on the Ring of Honor? You understand what I'm saying? Like, I'll use Anthony Henry as a perfect example, who I think is a fantastic wrestler. Loses pretty much every time he's on AEW TV as part of the Workhorsemen, or if he does a singles match, as an enhancement match, whatever. And then he's a top player in Ring of Honor. So who's going to be making that payment to see that when there's no existing equity on the other property that's booked by the same person? That's my biggest disconnect with Ring of Honor. That's not to say that can't be fixed or can't be solved. But if that's the case, what is going to be your distribution plan that's going to get people to care and to invest and to spend the money to watch these things and expand Honor Club's reach?
Tony Khan had addressed this months and months ago, and he didn't want it to be this way, but it seems like it's heading this way. Does Ring of Honor look like AEW developmental? Does it look like basically the dark elevation matches just branded under the Ring of Honor name?
I mean, it feels like to a degree it is that, but he wants to profit off of it. And we know that NXT is going to be in a position where they're going to be making great TV money. I don't know what that longevity is going to be for Ring of Honor in its current presentation. So will it change? Will it be a separate identity? I don't know. We've seen the integration with it on AEW and it doesn't really work. The ratings prove it. Yeah. When Ring of Honor content is featured on AEW TV, people don't generally care. So it's a matter of how do you take that feedback and adjust to it?
This might be a spoiler for this week's Ring of Honor television, but if it is, forgive me. Apparently at the Ring of Honor taping Saturday night after Collision, Tony Khan introduced a Women's World Television Championship. Now, we don't have any details as to how this is going to be, awarded, but we have yet another title under the AEW Ring of Honor umbrella. Am I far off in thinking this is going to water down what feels like an already kind of watered down championship picture in Ring of Honor?
I mean, again, to each their own, but I would say that there's a fair argument to be made in that.
Yeah. It just, I don't know. I don't know how much of a clamor there was for a women's TV champion. And, unless he wants to make it like AEW where they have the TBS title and the TNT title, I don't know. Speaking of AEW, got a couple of stars out with injury, illness, what have you. Kenny Omega checked himself into a hospital. Apparently has diverticulitis. And it looks like he's going to be off the road for quite a while. Obviously, this throws a monkey wrench into the plans to have him and Jericho go after the AEW tag titles at World's End. I want to ask this only because you think of Kenny Omega, you think of how long he was out dealing with all the myriad of injuries that he had racked up, in his career, and now he's hit with diverticulitis. Could this be the beginning of the end of Kenny Omega's wrestling career? At least
You hope not. You hope
you hope
not. I,
not,
I
right?
don't. I don't know Kenny Omega's body, so I can't sit there and tell you one way or another what it is. But you hope it's not. You hope he comes back healthy. You hope that this is just a setback for him. Matt Hardy dealt with diverticulitis, and I've spoken a lot about that. Brock Lesnar dealt with it. It's debilitating, and it could take a long time to recover from. So hopefully Kenny is able to get on a good regimen that puts him in a position where he's healthy first and foremost, and then he can take it from there as far as the in-ring stuff goes. And his body is broken down. As he said, he missed a lot of time. Hopefully he's just in a situation where he recognizes to pace himself. And then eventually we get the Kenny Omega that we all know and love back. It's a big blow to them, no doubt.
It is a big blow. Really is. The other one, CJ Perry, the former Lana, divulged that she had to go in the hospital. She had an infection in her finger, and even tweeted out a picture of it. Looked very gnarly, and ended up having to have surgery because the infection had made its way up her arm. Now she has had successful surgery. In fact, Miro tweeted out a photo with the care package. Just enough, just enough. I mean, it's not necessarily an in-ring worker, although CJ Perry has been involved with Andrade on screen. You hope this won't, sideline her too long.
Yeah, of course not. I mean, she's been a consistent presence. I think she said it was from a splinter she got backstage. So hopefully people are aware, hey, if you even get a splinter, got to be careful there. But yeah, best wishes to her.
That is pretty bad. We saw on, I think it was Collision this past week. It was Abaddon taking on, I think it was Sky Blue, and Abaddon gets the win. And Julia Hart shows up. We got spooky wookie time with Julia Hart, and Sky Blue apparently is now finally sided with her, which felt like the slowest heel turn ever. And then Thunder Rosa inserts herself, comes back, saves, helps out Abaddon, and now we're going to get a tag match. Good to see Thunder Rosa back, and of course, that tag match is going to happen in her hometown of San Antonio at the Frost Bank Center. Give me your thoughts on Thunder Rosa. Could we see another possible title run with Thunder Rosa, or is this going to be kind of a just enjoy her time in the ring?
Oh, let's see where her body's at, right? I mean, she's been gone a long time, but there's no doubt that she's a performer that a lot of AEW fans connect with. So her being back on TV is a good thing. And there were all those rumors of some of the drama that surrounded her. Hopefully all that has dissipated and they can move forward in a good spot.
Yeah, you hope so. I want to ask you about the Continental Classic, because when they introduced this, it felt like, I don't know about this, but they've had some really good matches. And I personally like the whole ban the seconds or whatever, the teammates from the ring side area. So you just have the one-on-one. Could the Continental Classic become AEW's version of the G1 Climax?
I mean, that's the goal, right? That's what they're ultimately trying to strive for. It's going to take some time for it to get there. The G1, there's been 20 plus of them, so there's a lot of equity behind it. But I would imagine that was probably Tony Khan's biggest inspiration for it. And we'll see how the finish of it plays out. I think there were some great decisions made in it, and I think there were some that I personally would not have gone in the direction of. Like a couple people not getting any points or wins at all and being eliminated right off the bat. I don't think that helps their equity much, but they're telling some great stories within the tournament. And if they can get it to the finish line where they've told some pretty effective ones that elevate characters and further their progression, then that's a success as far as I see it.
I want to ask you because they always mention this. They make this they make this a big deal about the winner of this Continental Classic will have the quote modern American Triple Crown as the Ring of Honor World Champion, the New Japan Strong Openweight Champion, and this AEW Continental Champion, the new title. Does that does that resonate with you
No,
as a wrestling fan, as a wrestling journalist? Does that
no,
resonate with you?
no, not really. Again, it's just kind of creating things for the sake of creating them. But look, if you're trying to get equity and merit behind something, you have to create it in the first place. So hopefully the optimistic side of you says they'll build on it and something will come from it. But for me personally, it's not something that really resonates with me.
I'm there with you. I would have rather had I don't know, I know they do this all the time, but I think just a shot at the world title at
Yeah,
whatever pay-per-view. I think that would be better. Make it exact, just like the G1, the winner of the G1 gets the title shot at Wrestle Kingdom. Do the same thing with AEW. The winner of the Continental Classic gets a title shot at Revolution or even Double or Nothing.
sure.
It feels like lumping all three of those championships together just means somebody's luggage is going to be a little heavier going through security at the airport. So, switching gears to WWE, PW Insider reported this. Dave Meltzer, Wrestling Observer, reported this. Charlotte Flair is to have surgery for a torn ACL, torn MCL, and a torn meniscus. Plus, there was talk she may have also suffered a neck strain. Looks like she's going to be out for at least 9 months. It feels like Charlotte Flair was starting to kind of gain some momentum again after being off the last time. Now she's going to be out for another 9 months. Could be longer, could be shorter. Is Charlotte Flair when she comes back? I mean, she's a star though, right? So she's going to be when she comes back, she's going to come back as a star still, right?
You would think so.
So you feel bad for her. She just re-signed. The reports are she just re-signed for a ton of money for WWE. So, wishing best for her, and you hope that she can just fall right back into the momentum she was gaining leading up to this. SmackDown saw AJ Styles make his return, attacking LA Knight, and as well as hitting Roman Reigns. Is AJ Styles? You think AJ Styles is up for at least one more title run sometime down the road?
I suppose it's possible. I think he has enough merit in his own right where he would justify having another one. I was a little. I didn't love them doing the turn here. I honestly thought there would have been more intrigue in doing a fatal four-way at the Rumble for that championship with Orton, Reigns, LA Knight, and AJ, and they still could do that, but I felt having three baby faces going after Roman and then the turn happening is more intricate storytelling than burning that turn a little earlier. It would have given a little more direction, in my opinion, for them to further something. But it is what it is. They value AJ as a performer, so putting him with LA Knight, hopefully they get a good match out of them.
You hope so. I mean, you read a couple. I've read a couple of spoilers for the SmackDowns they've taped. The SmackDown they taped for this week. You hope it's simply a matter of maybe they're trying to do some sort of a, heaven forbid, a sports oriented story where you've got three top contenders that just all happen to be, I guess baby faces. AJ may be a heel, but I don't know. Doesn't it, I'm with you. I'm not crazy about him attacking LA Knight last week. It just feels like it muddies the water a little bit. So, on Raw we had Caden Chance and or Katana Chance. Yes, I get them confused. Katana Chance, Caden Carter. They defeat Chelsea Green and Piper Niven to win the women's tag titles. It felt like when the belts were around Chelsea and Piper, maybe the curse of the women's tag titles had been paused. Now that they're around the waist of an actual tag team, let's hope we don't see another curse. But I mean, it felt like it was time to take those belts off of Piper and Chelsea, right?
Yeah, I mean, they're Carter and Chance have been together a long time, so you're never going to know what you got unless you give them a shot.
I mean, they had great work when they were in NXT. I think it worked out well. I'll be interested to see. You got to believe Chelsea and Piper are going to go their separate ways, or maybe they end up feuding against each other. But I could see them going their separate ways. But it was a good one. I want to ask you this before I let you go. You had the Creeds going after Finn Balor and Damian Priest for the undisputed tag titles. Finn and Damian get the win. It felt like maybe they should have pulled the surprise and given the Creeds the win. The way they'd been setting them up, it feels a little like they were doing to the Creeds what they've been doing to Roman's most recent challengers. Do you think the Creeds should have been crowned the champions?
Not yet. I mean, they're the Judgment Day are the backbone of Monday Night Raw. This whole show runs through them. And, the Creeds have been given a lot of face time lately, and they've been given a lot of shine. They're still a little rough around the edges, and that's fine. They just came up. They're two really great athletes who are going to be big players at some point. But I don't think that means you have to thrust them right into the spot right away. Mm-hmm. You're going to build that equity over time. It's going to come. But I didn't see it as a necessity to strap tag titles some right away, especially when, Balor and Priest just won those belts back not that long ago. So
yeah,
give them a little foundation under them first.
It's basically it's a matter of just have patience with them.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, that's any act.
I promise I'll let you go with this one. Let's pull out the crystal ball. WrestleMania 40. Roman Reigns defends against somebody. I want to ask you, is WrestleMania 40 when Roman Reigns finally gets pinned and loses that title? Or is it like what they said at the WrestleMania 39 press conference? We're still in the middle innings of this venture.
I don't know where else you go, man. I legitimately don't know where else you go. I think it has to end with Cody Rhodes pinning Roman Reigns. I think it has to. If it doesn't, you're never going to have Cody at that place again.
Yeah.
I mean, you remember how steadfast I was after WrestleMania in particular about how much of a mistake I thought that it was. And yeah, there's an argument to be made that Cody has sustained his popularity and has broken out and done well, and that's awesome. They've lucked out in that sense. But you can't tell me that the Bloodline's hotter than it was going into WrestleMania last year, and that story's hotter than it was. There's just no way around it.
I've been saying Bloodline storylines jumped the shark. Since SummerSlam, I think it's jumped the shark.
I would agree with that. And now you are facing a situation where, if Cody beats him, it'll be a great moment. It'll be a great story. I don't think it would have been as big. I don't think it will be as big as it would have been last year.
Yeah, I think you're right. He is Jon Alba. See him on Sportsnet New York, as well as Triller TV, and catch the Extreme Life with Matt Hardy podcast and the Strictly Business with Eric Bischoff podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. John, I appreciate the time, man. It's been a while since we talked. We need to do this again soon. I preach again, like I said, appreciate the time. All the best to you. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, and we'll talk again soon.
You as well, Stu. Really appreciate you, man. Happy holidays to you.